did my button pushing. I'm done.
You're done for the day. Mary Lou will not be here today.
Okay, I got 3 up, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We go for a roll call, please.
Hagan.
Here.
Bear.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
And Tobias.
Great. All right, let's see what we got here. So our public hearings, rezoning application, 550.
Yeah, we'll have 5 public hearings Monday night. Michael's done a pretty good job of capturing each one in his memo. We're starting with the rezoning application case, and the SUP for case. Zoning text amendment is the non-motorized vehicle you initiated last month. For me to advertise initiated by Haymarket Self-Storage. Storage of non-motorized vehicles. Like, you have some storage back there in the trailer.
Especially St. Paul's sign.
St. Paul's for our ordinance calls for a special use permit for church signs in the R1. So it's procedural that we go through with this. And then the ad, I didn't include the ad for the use of the hair over. Did you all like to see that? Where did I word about it?
I think we made it all inclusive, right? Not just
Yeah, basically what I said in the ad was seeking input from residents of the town regarding the future use of hair over by including but not limited to charitable or nonprofit organizations which may or may not render revenue to the town.
right. Okay.
That's basically how I said it. And we have Facebook, the website, newspaper.
Okay.
All public hearing notices are on the website as well.
Any other input about the public hearings?
Just not looking at it. Rebecca, what did the planning commission, or have they, for the self-storage, what have they said or asked?
I believe we sent that forward with a recommendation of approval.
You guys had a public hearing on this already?
Mm-hmm.
And now your hearings are joint. It's all been held, I think. If
Has the signs been blessed off by the ARB?
yes, sir.
get the wording for 7E on Monday? Or before Monday?
Oh, yeah, sure. Do you want the packet or just looking around?
Packet. Please.
All we did was hear that, and I was right. Yes, Brian.
I was thinking the same thing.
Just 4, 5.
I'm good, David, if everybody else is here.
Rebecca? Steve?
I'm good.
All right, good. So we're going to the minutes. Let me see those.
I have 2 corrections, but I think we can move Jen back here.
I forgot the building official.
Thank you. Jennifer, did you already catch the date issue on page 2 of the June 27th special meeting?
Yeah,
Okay. And did you already catch the other one on the July 1, or do I still need to note that one now?
No, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
What were the issues?
The date says the 87th,
Oh,
and on page 7 of the July 1, where I had asked Pam a question, that came after the vote for the terminate debate, not before. So it's just moving the order.
Are you okay with minutes then?
Yes.
Chief, are you? Jay?
Yep.
Good. Department reports, police report. Did we send over to, I know they were looking at to do that woman's self-defense, did we get all that taken care of, or they needed some insurance information, certificate of insurance or something like that?
I'm not sure. I know that they were working on scheduling the location for that, but
Okay.
other than that, that's most I've heard. I'll follow up with Chief Root.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was like when, I think Sherry was looking at getting the information or filling out the application. I guess.
I think we've been confirmed on location, so I would tend to say that they've got the insurance information.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Anything else about the police report? I guess everything's been moved in, right? Everything's been transitioned over.
Correct.
All the computers, phones, all that stuff's been behind us. The only thing that's left over is maybe in the storage, I understand. Storage shed or something.
There's still some storage of town articles over at the old police station, so we'll have to get those moved at some point in time. But as far as I know, all the PD is over. They have had some issues with the email, which we are getting our IT. He had got caught out on a family emergency. Will be back. I think it was actually going to be back today, so we should be seeing him sometime before the end of the week to get any of those issues worked out, as well as have him just make sure everything is running fine from that IT and the network.
Do we need to, and you probably already thought of this, but insurance-wise, notify that, hey, our equipment and operations is now over in this building, we're now occupying it, and as far as, all that stuff, I forget what they call it, but yeah. Okay, any other thoughts? Which one? Treasurer's report. So the audit got completed, or excuse me, at least the bookkeeping stuff. I guess, do we hear back how soon with the results of that?
They've only been in to do the pre-audit.
Uh-huh.
That did go well. There was still a few things that we need to go back that they need additional information on, but they anticipate returning probably sometime in the end of towards the end of August to have it wrapped up before the end of August. That's what my understanding is, and so hopefully we'll be seeing a draft version sometime September, October at the latest.
Okay. All right. Are we still looking in the positive there, Mr. Tobias?
For last year? Yes.
Okay. How are you, sir? That's okay. We're all good.
We lock that door down, man, it's supposed to. Guys,
Okay.
go back.
Anything
Sorry.
else with the treasurers?
No speed.
Okay. Engineers report, Polly.
On the enhancement project, we held the pre-construction meeting with the contractor, VDOT, and town staff on July 17th. That's the big meeting where we meet with everybody to kind of talk about what has to be done so that we can get the notice to proceed and some of the items that might be an issue on the project. We talked about Haymarket Day. We talked about installing the drainage on Haymarket Baptist Church, how important it is not to try and minimize the disruptions to the traffic. So it's a standard meeting, but it was something that we needed to hold before we move forward, and so that was held. One of the things that came up at that meeting was the construction staging area, and the area that we discussed was on the lower part of the food pantry property. One, because there's already going to be construction work being done there. Two, it's town-owned property, so that means we're not having to pay the contractor additional money for a separate staging area, since it's town-owned property. I know that was something that I talked with VDOT and the previous town manager, but I don't know if it had ever been relayed to you, so I wanted to make sure it was relayed to you.
We're talking about the lower left.
The lower part, and what the staging area is that they need to post like equal rights, all of the stuff for the equal opportunity employer and their rights. It also would be an area for storage of materials.
Will there be a fence put up, temporary fence and locking and all that stuff?
That is at his discretion, and we did not discuss whether or not he would put a fence up. He is responsible for any upkeep and maintenance and then removal of what he needs for his staging area. We did not specifically talk about a fence. I can ask if that.
And since that would probably kill all the grass there, will they reseed or something when they remove it?
They are responsible for, when they remove everything, to return it to its original state. Yes.
Because of the slope of the turf over there, et cetera, does it not make more sense for them to stage on the grassy part where the PD was versus where you're talking about, which is usually lower and soggier after all the rain?
We can change. I mean, it is at our discretion, and I just thought since they was already going to be doing construction to try and keep it in the same general area, there's no reason why we can't move it, especially since it's our property.
Yeah, I mean, just because after heavy rainstorms, that area you're talking about becomes a lake.
Sure.
So I'm not sure they want to store their stuff in water, or do we want them moving the equipment in and out of there and tearing up the turf?
Okay, and that is not a problem to have that moved. I just kind of wanted to talk about, we need to have it on the Harrow properties.
Right.
So, okay, I will definitely have it
Wherever
moved.
it makes sense, because we're going to be cutting into that area right there, putting in that pipe, the underground pipe there.
That's going to be like on the property
Right
line.
on the edge there.
And there is going to be some ditch work and a little bit of road widening going across the front of the food pantry as well.
Did it give you any kind of idea how big? I mean, are you talking about multiple pieces of equipment and a lot of?
I'll be honest with you, we did not discuss a size. I had just said the lower portion, because my whole point is that if there is something to be doing up at the houses, I don't want that disturbed or
Right.
being used up. So I just said the lower portion.
Okay. Right.
And this is roughly a year?
A year. Right now, what it is that the way the contract reads right now is that there's a contract end date of May 1st, 2013. It has taken a long time to get to the notice to proceed. I could see them possibly asking for an extension. However, they have to go through a procedure to ask for additional time. I'm saying a year. Hopefully it could be done less. But if I say a year, I feel like I see how things go and I think how long things are going to take. So I'm like, I want to say a year. So.
We have Haymarket Day, the third Saturday in
What we did broach that subject, and there would be no construction. I can't say there would be no equipment on site because it's unreasonable to have someone mobilize and then demobilize. Either you're going to not start the project until after Haymarket Day, or you just make sure that it's fenced off, secure, or you wait. That is we had talked about that. No work, and it's a big activity there.
Jay's point, maybe
That's why I think the location is better where I suggest.
And it's not a problem to move it. If it's better for Haymarket Day, even better. But we also made clear, because if I'm trying to get this started as soon as possible, and I especially want the drainage to the church done. That was one of the things that we talked about at the meeting, was before school starts back, when you have all the preschool going
Right.
through. So one of the things that we talked about is during, for Haymarket Day, because one of the first things they do on this project is going to be installing drainage. And there can't be open trenches that people can fall into. You know, they need to be protected. So that was the type of discussion in terms of Haymarket Day. And we did also let them know, not just Haymarket Day, but what we did is tell them what all the other days where the road closures are. Even if it's not in this area of the project, they need to be knowing. If you have active construction going on days that you have road closures, it makes it even worse.
Right.
So while Haymarket Day is our big day, we did go far, said, Stars and Stripes will be again, we have the car show.
And Haymarket preschool, their first day of school, whatever day that is.
What we did is we notified them that what we had coordinated with the preschool before we even met with the contractor, and I had them email me a list of days for like vacation Bible schools, when are teachers coming back, when are students going to be
Okay,
there.
okay.
And so I actually passed that email along to the contractor.
Good deal. Okay. All right.
One of the things that I had mentioned last time, and now the big holdup for the project is what's called this VSMP permit or the grading permit. We did a follow-up with DEQ last week. There were 2 deficiencies in the application, so the contractor FedExed them to the DEQ on July 25th. So I will be doing a follow-up phone call to DEQ before the council meeting to find out what the status is of that again. I'm going to kind of skip down to the last bullet. After the VSMP permit is attained, that is when we will have the contract signed off on, and the contractor will then have 15 days to start construction. So the big holdup right now, and we are the subject of an outside agency, is that VSMP permit. But we're doing the follow-up phone calls to make sure it's moving efficiently, because they switch, the people that are submitting the people that grant the permit change state agencies as of July 1st. So kind of helping make sure that nothing's getting lost in the cracks. And the other thing is as the project is going to be moving on, there will be times where we are going to need to have quick turnarounds on approvals for what are called submittals, things like shop drawings, plan interpretations, contingencies. And my recommendation is that you go ahead and give both Brian, or the town manager and town engineer, the approval authority for what's called the submittals. Not to sign off on checks, but to approve these things. And there's actually a separate agenda item for that with a motion, a draft motion.
Okay, good. Okay.
The plan review, Alexander's Keep drainage. We have actually, since I wrote this, I did receive the plan back in, and I actually have the only additional comment that I have is to change the revision number. So in reality, I anticipate the Alexander's Keep drainage revision being on the final agenda as a minor site plan revision.
It's already on.
It's got a separate item. In addition, we have met with Signature Kitchens or John Lombardozzi to go over the comments for his first submission, and we received the second submission of the Haymarket Ice Rink, and that's being reviewed. Yesterday, town staff, myself, Brian, and the inspectors met with DEQ, which is the overseeing agency, to perform joint erosion and sediment control inspections on some of our problem sites within the town. Just partly to make sure our program is running efficiently, and also to kind of get their input on, having them come in to kind of help us crack down as well on people that are not doing what they should be. And I felt like the meeting went well.
Anything else for Holly?
You'll notice that the Haymarket, or Alexander's Keep site plan revision is a placeholder in the agenda, and it's blank. And the reason we put it on there is because these residents are looking for resolution as soon as possible, and we were hoping that we'd be able and ready to get this before you on Monday night. And it looks like we will be. We just put the placeholder on Friday night.
Okay. Okay. Moving on. Town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really don't have anything really to add to the report or highlight. I'll be happy to answer any of the questions. I will note, as part of the enhancement grant project and everything, a lot of times you do have to go through contract management. Holly and I discussed, I'm actually going to be attending the contract workshop. It's a free workshop that VDOT puts on. It is down in Roanoke, Virginia. We do have that cost, but I actually will be offsetting some of the costs by staying with family while I'm down there. So I'm trying to go basically as reasonable as we can. But it's one of those, it helps us with the, as far as the contract management process of this, the entire grant process.
Okay.
Can you please explain what that conference is again? I'm sorry.
It's actually a workshop that's VDOT puts on. They put on various different educational workshops about different aspects of training with regard to In this particular case, this is regard to contract management with regard to the enhancement grant and how you manage it as you go through construction and everything, so that you learn what are they looking for, how are they, all the processes and procedures that they require, because they're getting, a lot of these funds are coming from federal funds, so they have certain reporting requirements. So basically, they walk you through all these processes and procedures.
Isn't Holly familiar with those?
That is not my area of expertise as your engineer, to be completely honest with you. The stuff that my area of expertise is your upfront design phase. The construction phase, not that my projects have not gone to construction, but then that's normally held outside. And this is the first time as an engineer for the town that I'll be going through the construction phase for you. So I think that it would be beneficial to have someone with some, get some VDOT input on that.
Will this potentially help in getting the money back from VDOT more quickly if we submit things to the letter of the law?
Well, based upon our experience and our research in this, they're two separate things. This is more about the contract documents and everything that has to go in from the town's perspective. That is a submittal process through Richmond, and so what we found is we're submitting, if it's one thing, if we have anything that we're missing, that delays things. But if we've got all of our paperwork in line, it's a matter of once they submit it from this presidency to Richmond, we're at their wait time. We've been reassured with regard to that
Right.
they are trying to improve those processes. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where we'll have to wait until we see proof of it, but we're going to stay on them fairly diligently to make sure that process is moving along.
All right, thanks. One other question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
On the voting changes from the electoral board of Sunshine County, as you say in here, there are pros and cons, and I have no idea what they are right now. But you said there might be a VML representative that could come and educate us on those?
Yes. As of this time, I actually tentatively have Mary Jo Fields with VML scheduled to come to our next work session, which will be the August work session, which will be, what is that, the 27th, I believe. She'll be here to lead you all through a pros and cons. She'll kind of talk about the pros and cons of what jurisdictions have found. She also shares with various different resources what some jurisdictions are glad they made the switch and other jurisdictions are not. Larger jurisdictions tend to have the most reluctancy to change, but they tend to they have a much broader audience. So that's one of those things where I think it really comes down to which each town's preference really is. If you get a lot of turnout at a May election and you don't mind having an electoral board coming in here, of course, they're encouraging to switch because obviously that leads to, that way they only really have to concentrate on one time period of the year.
Cost savings for them.
Yeah. Those are the pros and cons that you'd be looking at.
Okay, I'll
So.
be happy to hear from her.
And what like say that about not charging us, but what is the election? Is it a couple $1,000 or something like that?
It's been about
3,000? Okay. Right. Okay. Subcommittee for the
Yes.
treasurer.
Yes. For the treasurer's search.
Right.
So I would appreciate, I think because the position is labeled in the charter, it'd be, I think it'd be helpful and appropriate at the same time if I had a subcommittee to work with, either those who are drawn to the personnel side of things or the finance side of things as we go through the search for this position.
Okay.
We can either do it through volunteers or you can open it up. I would suggest wait till you have your full council, but I think it's something I would appreciate. We have gotten enough applications, and a good bit of them, I think, are qualified candidates.
Okay. Is there a limit to the number, if I remember this correctly, that you want to try to keep so that way the FOIA thing and...
Well, we're not trying to hide anything.
No, I understand, but I'm just ideally to...
Yeah, if you had 2 council members, I think that would be appropriate. I mean, essentially what you would probably do is, or as I envision the process is, 2 council members and myself, we could even, if we wanted to pull additional, 4th person in from staff or something to the effect, review applications, come up with a list of qualified candidates, do initial interviews, and then if we think we've got someone, then bring them in to introduce them to the remainder of the council at a later date, whenever the next scheduled council meeting would be.
All right.
That's what I would recommend.
For the
In other
council members that are here, is there any interest in this? Just asking. Any interest?
Well, it probably goes without saying that I'd be part of that.
Well, I didn't want to assume. Just want to make sure. So maybe, of course, we have 3 that aren't here. Maybe I'll reach out to for the 3 that aren't here to see if they have any interest in maybe serving in that. Okay.
Have you decided on your admin assistant / museum curator position?
We're actually holding interviews tomorrow. We have 4 qualified candidates tomorrow and Thursday. I have one at 10 and 2 on both days, and then I'm hoping that out of those 4, we'll have a candidate pulled to the lead, and if all goes well, I hope to introduce them at the August 5th meeting.
You narrowed 70 down to 4.
We had out of those 70, we had a variety of different levels of experience. We had quite a few that had a lot of background and experience in like museum curating, but like on a much larger scale than what our museum does. There's no question that they'd have the ability to do it. The question would be more of would they do it in a part-time ability. We had applications come in from California and from all over the U.S. The other level we had very highly qualified administrative assistants, but they didn't have a lot of background in anything that would have to do with like the museum or the promotion of the museum or anything to that effect. And then we also had quite a few applicants who had a lot of good job experience, but nothing that really lined themselves up in regard to administrative assistant or from the standpoint of being a museum curator. So that's kind of how we narrowed it down. That out of that came left us with about 12, and out of the 12, I narrowed it down to the 4.
Brian, have you looked at the steps that are involved in amending the charter? Should we consider the Prince William County Electoral Board's offer and
Initiate
multiple options at the same time?
initiated contact with our town attorney. From my experience with this, with a lot of jurisdictions are going through this process throughout the state. So the amendment of a charter with regard to elections has pretty much gone pretty quick by it. It's been one of those things. I know a lot of times whenever you go into amendment of a charter, you get worried. The state's kind of been looking at this as they're trying to get a lot of jurisdictions, or a lot of jurisdictions have been going over to the November elections from May elections. So far, that doesn't seem to be as much of a tough task as it's been in the past with charter changes. I think it's my feeling, and also in discussing with our town attorney, that if we keep everything, any changes limited to elections, it probably shouldn't be that much of a difficult task. if there's other charter changes that have to be made, then obviously you're talking about a much different, much lengthier process. It never hurts to get a state official, a state elected official to support your charter change. But based upon my experience, many jurisdictions across the state have been going through this, so they've kind of almost not rushing these through, but it hasn't been as much of a lengthy process as it has been in the past.
To repeat my question, what's the procedure, what's the process?
The exact procedure, I'd have to get more information for you on that. We've only kind of talked about it in general terms because we have to determine if you'll want to change your elections as it is. But I'll get more information.
Any other questions for Brian? Moving on. Planner's report, looks like he's going to provide this to us. Going down through here, agenda items which we spoke of.
I requested a proper statement of 7-.
Okay.
It was my understanding the council wanted the park preservation to be as permanent as we could make it. If I'm reading this correctly, they're saying they're only going to maintain the park preservation for 10 years. Not that they have a 10-year lease with somebody already, not that. They're saying they're only going to preserve it for 10 years. It says the recreation fields will be maintained for public use by the applicant for a period of 10 years from the date of approval of this property by the Haymarket Town Council, so long as the public or private partner is willing to enter a commercial or reasonable form of lease agreement at fair market price. And it talks about the fair market price. What happens after 10 years? They're going to terminate their lease and they're not going to keep the parks? That's not what we asked. I think someone needs to reword that because that's not what we want. It was my understanding that there was a 10-year agreement already in place with the county and that at the conclusion of that 10 years, then they would seek a formidable partnership with a public or private entity. And if they could not formulate a suitable partnership, then they would have the right to do something else. It was my understanding that the applicant was supposed to be here during the work session today, but I guess he's upstairs.
Hey, Jen, can you see if he's available?
I'll call him. I'll call him. Sean, how are you? I'm doing good. You got a couple minutes to pop down here for the work session? I thought Marshawn had said you were going to be here. Yeah, we're on your thing. We had a question about your proper statement. Thanks. I mean, am I understanding what council I thought we wanted? We wanted that to be preserved
As long as
perpetuity as long as possible?
I agree.
Maybe they're just missing a word in the proffer statement or something, I don't know.
I don't have my old one in front of me, so I.
been made, doesn't have any questions or problems. Temporary temporary occupancy permit for Next Level Fitness as part of A1 parcel or parcel A1, the Lombardozzi property. It's going to be a similar situation as to the Rose property and the gymnastics studio, where the tenant would like to have occupancy while the building owner was working to bring their site plan into compliance. So since we've kind of set that benchmark already, Marchand's got all the documents, etc. The applicant would rather not wait till September. Does anybody have any problems with that?
No.
Could you add it as 7M, please?
Sure. It's okay.
Oh,
How are you?
good, good. How's it going?
Good.
How you doing?
Question on the proffer statement as it pertains to the park preservation.
Okay.
It was council's understanding that the park preservation was going to be as permanent as possible,
Okay.
and that you guys had a 10-year lease already in line with the county. Yet, the way that this is worded, it says that the recreation field will be maintained for a period of 10 years, which leads me to believe that after 10 years, you won't maintain that park preservation or make any attempt to. And that's not what council wants. Council wants it to have every attempt made to have the parks available forever, giving you guys the option of, if after the 10-year lease with the park authority is over, if you guys don't have a viable option there that covers economics, et cetera, then you have the right to not preserve the parks. But this wording here says that you're only going to maintain it for 10 years, not attempt to maintain it forever.
Well,
Yeah, so, go
Yeah.
ahead, should I stand up, doesn't matter?
That's right.
It's up to you, sir.
I'm trying to bring it up here, sorry.
No problem.
So, I'll bring the proffer up, but I think our intent is, so we can commit by way of a contract, a proffer, to the term of the lease that we have, right? So, if nobody else has entered into anything beyond 10 years, that's all I can actually state. So, the other language in the proffer is dealing with if at any point, whether it's within the 10 years or after the 10 years, if somebody is willing to enter into a commercial lease with us, we will enter into a commercial lease. But the Parks and Rec is the only entity that's entering into a contract with us. So for me to make a commitment for something beyond a term that somebody's actually entered into a contract with me for, I can't do that.
That's not what the council was inclined to want and what we thought was in process. What we thought was in process was that the parks were, what was originally proffered to us 18 months ago behind closed doors was we're going to maintain the parks. Our desire is to maintain the parks.
sure.
So I understand what you're saying, that you don't want to commit to something that you don't have after 10 years, and I'm not stating that you are committing to anything after that 10 years. The proffer statement itself says that you're only committing to 10 years, whereas the verbiage that we've shared amongst ourselves was that you will maintain the parks forever, provided there's an adequate agreement in place with a tenant, whether it be a public or private partnership, whether it be the town of Haymarket 10 years from now, whether it be the county of Prince William, whether it be the state of Virginia, whether it be the Boys and Girls Club of Manassas, But what you have written here says that you're only maintaining it for 10 years, and that's not what we were offering.
Well, I think the statement, and originally we said, and I think we've always held true to our original commitment, is that we're going to protect these parks.
Well, it doesn't say that here.
No, that says that we're going to guarantee that for 10 years, right? We never said we were going to guarantee above every other financial consideration that we're going to protect these parks forever and ever and a day. We said that it is our intention to protect these parks and maintain it. And we're committing to that, and we have, everything we've done has shown that we're going to commit to protecting these parks and renovating the parks. And, right, it's just how much of a guarantee we can actually put on all this unforeseen future. I mean, that's...
Well, you're not even guaranteeing yourself 10 years, Sean. You're saying the recreation fields will be maintained for the public use by the applicant for a period of 10 years, blah, 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 so long as a public or private partner is willing to enter into a commercial reasonable form of a lease agreement at a fair market price. So you're not even stating that you're going to enter into that for 10 years. You're saying it's 10 years so long as you have a tenant.
And we've supported that we have a tenant lease for 10 years.
Yeah, we provide.
Anybody else want to make heads or tails of that? Because obviously I'm not making my point.
So let me just sort of put it out there the way it is today, right? So this has been an iterative process, right? It's been explained to us that, hey, you guys don't have any commitment to the parks, right? So we said, okay, we have put forward in our sales contract an agreement to enter into a lease with the Parks and Rec for 5 years, right? He said, that's not good enough. That's what we had originally proffered, was our sales contract for 5 years. You said, you got to do something better than that, guys, to show us that you're really committed. So we said, fine, we will do a 10-year lease with the parks. Everybody that we had talked to gave us a thumbs up on the 10-year commitment to the parks, right? We went and we put forward a lease for 10 years with Parks and Rec. And we're still working with Parks and Rec right now to try to get them to sign it. But beyond the 10-year period, for which I have no commitment whatsoever, the town is asking me essentially to put the 4.5 acres into some preservation in perpetuity. I'm happy to do that if the town is willing to enter into an agreement beyond the lease period. If
That's
you're
not what
willing,
we're asking, Mike.
you just said that.
That's not what I said. I'm not asking you to say that you're going to maintain the parks forever.
That's what you said.
No,
That's
what
you
I'm
said
saying
when I
is
sat
that,
down.
no, what I'm saying is what you're saying is you're only going to maintain it for 10 years so long as there's not a mutually agreeable contract. What I'm stating is that you guys need to proffer to us that you're going to make every effort to maintain the parks forever unless a mutually agreeable is not found. That's what we all agreed to. That's what we agreed to outside after the meeting when you guys blew up at me and we all went outside and we had an agenda. We had a temporary stoppage in our meeting. That's what we agreed to, was that the parks were going to be maintained or attempted to be maintained and kept as parks forever. That you guys needed to get a longer-term lease if that's what you guys had to do to cover yourselves to get your funding or whatever you had to do. I'm not saying you're committing by writing it in the proffer that you're going to maintain the parks forever. You're committing to make an attempt to maintain the parks forever. All you've committed to here is 10 years. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for your word that you're going to try to maintain the parks forever.
So if we add some language in here that says that we will make every effort to maintain this parcel for public use, and then have the other provisos in there, provided that there's a public entity or commercial entity that's willing to enter into a lease with us. So
You've
kind of
already got that
essentially-
on here, so
Right.
long as it's a partner. You've already got the provision in there, so long as the
And that's-
public or private partner is willing.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what you guys are going to determine is going to be a commercially reasonable form of a lease agreement. I mean, quite honestly, I think you're giving yourselves quite a few outs there because it's not like we're contractually asking you to tell us right now what you're going to consider a commercially agreeable, acceptable form of a lease. We can't obviously hold your feet to the fire on that one.
So there's
If you could tell me 10 years, you could tell, according to this right now, you could tell me 2 years from now, we don't have an acceptable lease, so we're going to develop the land.
well, sure, but there's a
So you got plenty of outs here already. I'm just looking to get rid of that 10-year window stuff.
And we can go back and take a look at maybe adding some of the language in that says that we will work to maintain this for park availability. So we can probably add some additional language in there. But one of the things that I'm not able to do is commit beyond a period for which anyone's willing to enter into a contract with me.
I don't think there's anything that needs to be added, Mike. I think it's what needs to be subtracted. The recreational fields will be maintained for public use by the applicant from the date of the approval of this proffer by the Haymarket Town Council, so long as a public or private partner is willing to enter into a commercially reasonable form of lease. Fair market value. So you strike out for a period of 10 years.
I think we can do that.
That's all I've been asking for the last 20 minutes. You've been arguing with me.
So sorry that I haven't been listening.
Apparently. That's all I'm asking. And because you've got the other part of it, if you take out the 10-year part and you've got everything else covered, you've got your CYA, you've got to take out the 10-year part.
Okay. Sounds like agreeable. Sounds like we
Okay.
draft up the new one and have it ready for the.
My turn.
Sorry.
Different issue. At the planning commission level, we had taken out the former A, which was that the proper only, the rec fields only ran with current ownership and not if it's sold. But the way I'm reading this is now basically that's just been reworded.
What part?
The part 2, prior to any sale of the property during the 10-year term that the recreation fields are maintained, and it's have right of first refusal or have the option. Again, park preservation, profit run with the land.
Yeah,
I still want,
I don't know that we made any change. That was all the attorneys, your attorneys that have made.
well, then I need to check with ours on that, because with the way 1 is now written with Vice Mayor Tobias's input, I don't see any need for anything after that.
You're saying strike what, Rebecca? The whole prior to the sale part of the A's and B's?
Yep. Because that's if there's a sale during the 10 years. The park preservation, that's for at least 10 years, and if they sell the property, the proffer for the park would still go with the sale of the property.
Right.
So I just do not see the need.
You're just saying prior to the sale of the property.
Yeah, because giving us
have
the
option,
right,
yeah.
giving us the right to first refusal or the option to enter into the lease, if something happens and 4 years from now you sell it, we're then, have to buy 4.5 acres, or we're going to have to enter into the lease for it. If we remove that, then the park preservation for the minimum of 10 years goes with the sale, and whoever
Yeah.
purchases it has to honor that. So,
The fact that if you've sold it, the proffer of park preservation stays there forever, and anybody who owns it has to make it available for lease at a commercially reasonable form of a lease agreement at fair market price, whatever the hell that is. I mean, that's an out to me. I call it like I see it. That's an out. I don't know how we get a court to determine what a reasonable form of a lease agreement is. So, that's your out right there. If you say you don't have a commercial form of acceptable lease agreement, how do we argue with that? So, I think Rebecca's right. You strike out the prior to any sale, and you strike out the period of 10 years, and then during the 10-year term part.
Do you just want that paragraph removed, leave option A or B, or just delete?
You don't need option. You don't need option A or B.
Okay.
Because
You have a
the
problem with
park-
that, Mike?
The park preservation is the park being preserved. You don't need option A or B anymore. Your option A or B covered your, during the 10-year period. Well, we're striking the 10-year period out. So if you strike that out and you strike out the words for a period of 10 years and during the 10-year term, 5 sentences down, 5 lines down, you're done. Kobe, we added you to Mondays.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're welcome to hang out with us and watch. I'm not trying to get rid of you by any way, shape, or
No, that's the
form.
reason I.
Yeah, I did that 10 minutes ago.
All right, thank you.
You're on Monday's agenda for temporary.
Is there anything we need to?
Marchant's going to get with John.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
bud?
you.
Yes, sir.
You okay with that?
Sorry, guys.
What? I don't think so.
We'll have to go back and take a look at this, but I think that this language here is designed to be somewhat in addition to this area here, right? So,
It is. It's the prior to and the A's and the B's have to do with during the 10-year period. If you strike out the 10-year period, you don't need the prior to, and you don't need that A and the B. Because your park preservation is maintained by the proffer statement for perpetuity.
so let's say, for an example, just help us noodle this through, that year 4, year 3, or so, what happens in your mind in that scenario?
The person who buys it absorbs the remaining 6 years of your parks and recreation lease for the ball fields, and at the end of those 6 years, they try to renegotiate with the Parks and Rec, or they negotiate with another entity that's willing to try to buy it.
But
And if the
that's-
buyer decides that it's not a commercially reasonable, acceptable form of a lease agreement,
Want to chat?
that's how it works. I mean, that's, proffers come with the property, and if you buy it, you buy it. They
Well,
run
this
concurrent.
was, you know, and as we
Besides, I thought you
discussed-
guys weren't selling in 4 years. I thought you guys were here forever.
Yeah.
That's what you told me. Numerous times.
That's not a
You're
guarantee.
vested, you have a vested interest in the town. You have lots of dollars invested. I'm not sure why we're
We do.
hypothesizing here.
We do. But, like we said, right,
I
there's,
think he's being sarcastic.
Yeah.
I'm just being a jackass, but A's and B's isn't necessary when you strike up to 10 years. And if anybody buys the property in year 5, they've got to honor your lease that you have.
so the problem that we have is already, so as the property sits, right, we bought this as an investment to help grow our business. The appraisal has stripped all the value of that parkland, which, right, because of this proffer, basically we have zero value in that land right now. Right? So it completely strips us from the ability to actually grow based on that parkland, right? Because there's no value in it. There's no way out.
So if it has zero value, I mean, I'm pretty sure the town can buy it for $1 right now, right?
Well, so.
What do you mean it strict?
Can I just
What do you mean it
ask-
stops you from having the ability to grow?
So
To
for
expand
us,
your
so for us to
operation.
leverage a loan against
Right.
any value, they, right, our appraisal would have to come in at something to actually get a loan against
Absolutely.
something. And the value of that land is zero.
Right.
When, I mean, our intention was to be able to leverage against that to help reinvest and grow our business.
You would
Now,
only be able to leverage against that if you could build on it.
no, that's not true. It's land.
Use it for parking?
No.
Parking lot.
If it's a value, like land against it, right, so land has an intrinsic value, right? As your taxes, you have the land value and the improvements value.
So why do you
can
think the land has
leverage-
zero value then?
Because that's what the commercial appraiser said, well, based on, there's zero revenue, zero ability to capture any revenue on this ever.
You've got a lease
You
agreement
can't
with the
sell
county
it.
for 10 years.
Yeah, but that's
For what value?
I don't know what your lease says, how much they're going to pay
It's
you.
$8,000 a year, that's no value.
That's the offset to the taxes that they charge.
And that's.
That's
So
it.
that's the lease agreement you determine. But in your in your thing here, you says a commercially reasonable form of a lease agreement, and then in option B, it says $5,000 a month plus CAM. So I mean, you've obviously assigned a value of $5,000 a month to that property, or $60,000 a year to that
So
property.
we would be willing to enter into a lease with the town today for $5,000. If we were going to sell the property, right, we would enter into a lease with the town or any commercial entity for $5,000 and convey that lease with property. The problem we have.
Then it has value.
If ever we are in a situation where we have to sell the property, to convey a lease for $8,000 a year completely undermines the value of the property. So that's why this provision exists in here, that we have the ability to offer it up to the town before it is sold, right? You guys can take it over, buy it, or lease it for a certain amount for as long as you want. We would convey that on to the new owner. That's why we've got this as a separate section to the first paragraph. The first paragraph deals with the general agreement that we have to maintain it and for how long we agree to maintain it. The second set of paragraphs deal with if there's a sale that were to take place, this is what we would do with the disposition of the property.
So based on what you're saying, then in the prior to any sale, you strike out the 10-year term part of that, and you just say prior to any sale of the property, the town of Haymarket and the Prince William County Department of Department of Parks and Recreation shall have the right of first refusal and have the option to enter into a commercial valuable lease.
That's
So
fine.
again, you strike out the 10.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that's right.
Right.
But I still think your lease is going to convey.
No, our lease
I
has.
mean, I don't know what your lease says with the
It
county.
won't.
That's between
It
y'all.
won't.
We have the option for that lease to cancel because there's no value in it.
Right, but understand this, that even if your lease does not convey, the proffers convey.
Yeah, that's why we need a piece in there that says, let's
Yeah,
get a
but-
commercially viable lease to convey that to a
Well,
new
no,
owner.
but what I'm saying is, let's say 5 years from now, heaven forbid, you guys go belly up and you sell the property, and your Parks and Rec lease terminates, because that's how you worded it, and Steve buys the property from you guys. Well, so you're saying he doesn't have the lease with Parks and Rec anymore because that's going away. That doesn't convey. That's fine. But Steve still has to own up to the park preservation part of this, which means he's going to try his damnedest to have a lease generated with a public or private partnership.
Right.
And he's got to do that, and he's got to try it for as long as he can try it, or at least for a year after he gives his written notice that he's trying to try it. And for a year, he's got to try to do that. So I still don't know why.
Well, so we need the option
I
to
still
put
don't know why
value
the-
to that land if we have to sell it.
I still don't know why the right of first refusal. That doesn't put value. That only puts value there if we decide to run it from you, or the county, or the Parks and Rec.
But what
But
is
if you guys go to sell it, and we say we don't want to lease it, we don't want to buy it, you're still going to sell it, and this person who buys it is still going to be obligated to the park preservation clause.
That's right, but what they won't be is they won't be obligated to a very, very bad lease that produces no revenue to them for whatever period of time is left on that lease.
Well, I understand that, but I'm not sure why I'm
Well, that has
I'm
value.
confused as to why the options are there that I don't know why that's a sticking point.
So
Help me understand that, please.
So what we're trying to do is give ourselves the opportunity, if I have to come to you, Mr. Tobias, and say, would you like to buy this piece of property that includes this building? You say, yeah, I think I would. Hey, let me tell you, this property actually comes with tenants in it already. And let me show you what the revenue stream is on this property. Oh, by the way, the land is dedicated for parks preservation. Here's what the revenue is on that piece of property. Well, this is a loser. Can I get out of this? And I'll say, yes. Here's what your options are. And so you could actually go and find a revenue-producing tenant. Maybe it's the town of Haymarket that wants to lease it.
Maybe it's the football league, maybe it's a softball league, all the leagues that you had mentioned.
It gives you as a buyer an opportunity to make a better go of it than the deal we've got, right? Which is automatically better for the person that's buying it.
And what's the risk of having the option for the town? You have a guaranteed fixed rate for the town and a first right of refusal. You don't have to take it.
No, I understand that. I'm just not sure why it's a sticking point. I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
I think we need Mr. Crumb's
Yep.
No, I don't need his public opinion on anything.
piece of attorney.
I don't need his opinion. You might want it, but I don't need it.
I always value that.
So if you strike out the during the 10-year term and just leave prior to the sale of the property to the town, I'm not sure why that helps you is all I'm saying, but if you say it helps you, then it helps you. It doesn't hurt us. I understand it doesn't hurt us. I just don't know why it helps you. I don't.
It does.
I believe you.
So let me
Obviously, you wouldn't have put it in there if it
let me
didn't
try
help
one
you.
more time. So
No, I got your example. I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it. You don't.
Okay.
I'm trying to process why it helps you, but because at the end of the day, they still have the right to enter into a commercially reasonable form of a lease agreement.
So let me say this.
Because I would think commercially reasonable form of a lease agreement is either going to be more or less than $5,000.
Forget about the land for a minute. Let's just say it's the building we're talking about. And let's say that we got a third of that building that is not rented, or is rented to somebody that's only paying $8,000 a year. If I sell it to you, and you know when you buy that you can actually get a person in there that's going to pay a market rate for that third of the building, you're going to go, okay, I get it. I get value out of that building now. If you're stuck with somebody indefinitely who's really not even carrying their own weight, you're going to say, well, I essentially got to take this entire building and I got to subtract a third of this building from how I value the building, because that third of the building is going to produce nothing.
But you're only stuck with it for the term of the 10-year lease that you have in Parks and Rec.
That's true.
So as the buyer, then I should know what your lease is with them.
And you will.
But you also said a minute ago, I would not be stuck with them because your lease agreement with the Parks and Rec will not convey with the sale of the property. So therefore, I as the buyer would not be stuck with them. All you're saying is I would maybe be stuck with somebody at $5,000 a month, or I'd be stuck with the ability to rent it at anything that is commercially reasonable form of a lease agreement.
And that's why the provision's in there.
But I don't know why the provision's there. What I'm saying is, as the buyer, if I come to you and I say I'm going to buy the property, and you say, okay, the property has a tenant, but the tenant doesn't convey. Okay, fine. I'll find my own tenant for that. Oh, well, wait a minute, Mr. Buyer. We have a tenant that will give you $5,000 a month for that. But what if it's worth $20,000 a month? Why would I want your $5,000? I think this is I see you smiling like you just stole candy out of a candy jar, but I don't see why this helps you, because at this end of the day, unless you know 5 or 10 years from now or 4 years from now when you sell the property that $5,000 a month is a great rental rate for that, this doesn't help your bargaining power as a seller.
It's better than $8,000 a year, all day long.
But that $8,000 a year doesn't convey, Mike. You've already said that.
That's
Your lease
exactly
agreement
right.
doesn't convey.
That's exactly why the provision exists. It doesn't convey. So the 8,000's gone. I do have one limitation, which is 5,000, which Sean and I will take that all day long, at least for the next 10 years.
No, but your 5,000 is only there if the parks or
Town of
the
Haymarket.
town of Haymarket decides to buy it. So that's not a bargaining chip.
If they,
You've only got that option if you come to us and say, we're selling the property, do you guys want to rent the land? And we say, yeah, we'll rent it for $5,000. That's the only time you get the bargaining chip. Otherwise, your buyer still has land that he or she can rent and buy and do whatever they want with it, because they don't have a tenant attached to it anymore.
And I'm sorry, but if Parks and Recs is renting it from you for $8,000 and you decide to sell the property, why are they going to pay $5,000 a month to someone else if they were renting it for $8,000 a year from you? So, to me, this is just a way to get out of it. It's a rewording of getting rid of the proffer, which is what I brought up at the Planning Commission level. So,
I mean, you're saying your lease doesn't convey with the parks. So if the lease doesn't convey, if the lease does not convey, if the lease does not convey, what the heck does it matter if you've got the option of maybe bringing in 1 or 2 other tenants for $5,000 a
it
month?
gives the town of Haymarket the option to come in and keep it as parks. which
We've
is
got the
why
option to come in and enter into a commercially reasonable form of a lease agreement at fair market value.
You don't have it if I don't have it in here.
Well, that part of the proffer's in here. Enter into
Where-
a commercially,
where-
yeah, right here. The recreational fields will be maintained for public use by the applicant.
You don't have the
Upon the
option.
approval of this proffer, so long as by the Haymarket Town Council, so long as the public or private partner is willing to enter into a commercially reasonable form of a lease agreement. So therefore, we have the option of trying to enter into a commercially reasonable form of a lease agreement. Again, your out clause, as I call it. That's your out clause. That's your new buyer's out clause. This just gives us the option to commit to $5,000 a year. To use your words, why would I commit to something that I don't know is going to exist 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Why am I going to say, yeah, that's a good idea to pay $5,000 a month for that land over there? You've told me it doesn't have any value. So I'm going to pay you $5,000 a month to rent those fields, plus I'm going to have to upkeep and maintain those fields. Why would I agree to that when the fair market value of that land might be $1,000 a month 5 years from now, a year from now, whatever? Why would I agree to something that obligates me to $5,000 a month when I don't know what the fee
I tell you
is?
what, then, I would be willing to take this out if you allow me to put exactly what you said. Just keep it, if we sell, right? If we sell, we will give the town of Haymarket an opportunity to enter into a commercially viable lease for that lease to convey to the new tenant or the new owner. I'd be happy with that language. I thought that the 5,000 was just a nice placeholder to give you guys an opportunity to lease it for $5,000, which I think is frankly a very good price to lease those fields. So if you want to take that out and just keep it as commercially viable, I'll take that all day long. I'll be happy with that language. And we can strike
Well,
out.
based on your happiness, you're trying to tell me that the fields are worth more than $5,000 a month.
They are.
I think I can.
You
get
just
it.
told me they weren't worth a darn thing.
That's
If
not
I
what we're
gotta
paying
sell
for it, though. Right?
You can't tell me on the left hand that.
Yes, I can.
You
I can
can't
tell you I'm
no,
paying you
can't tell me they don't-
1.395.
You can't tell me they're worth nothing and then tell me that you're getting a bargain of $5,000 a month.
Well, you should know what I'm paying for something is completely irrelevant to what a commercial appraiser is going to appraise something for.
I agree. I understand that.
So we're paying X, we're paying $1.395 million for land purchase. Land purchase, that's all this purchase is. The buildings are as is. There's no building valuation in this. 1.395 is for land purchase. We're buying 9 acres, of which 4 acres is under this park preservation that the appraiser comes in and says, well, that ain't worth anything because you made it a park. You can't do anything with that. So now basically we've locked up, $700,000 in this lot of land that is worth $0. That's what I'm telling you, right?
According to Mike, it's worth $5,000 a month.
So What's a mortgage for $700,000? A lot more than $5,000 a month, right?
So you're saying you can't get any loan
Yeah.
on that section of the land?
They're not going to cover anything. They value at zero. So we're coming up with monies to cover this park preservation on this land loan, right? And all the build out, all this improvements, everything we're doing in this gym, because the bank comes in and says, yeah, the value of that, zero. And that's one of the, so we're
Can I bring back the focus to this one very issue that Mr. Tobias is raising, which is, you've got this proffer, and you
That'd be
said...
about $4,800 a month mortgage.
at a commercial rate.
Good.
You didn't say it a commercial rate.
All right, Mike.
Okay.
Please, you have the floor.
Maybe we're good. I don't know. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to enter into as long a lease, a viable lease as we can. We put forward that lease, Parks and Rec. I'm trying to get on a call with them right now to try to get that past the school board, right? So that's what we've offered up. What we're trying to protect against, and Ms. Baer, we've had these conversations too, that we just need to be able to be sensible business people when it comes to our need, if we have a need to sell it, that we actually can sell it with the value that comes with the building and the land as value that somebody else can use it for what they see a use for, commercial use. I mean, because that's the zoning that it will have. It's got the public use proffer in it. If somebody is willing to enter into a lease with us prior to us selling it, if we sell it, then we would convey that lease like all the other leases with the property. This is the only lease that we are not saying that we will convey because it's producing nothing. It's free. It's essentially saying that, hey, if you buy this land, it's essentially you're buying a preservation parcel. And when you say you're buying a preservation parcel, it's undervalued. It doesn't carry the same value for which we purchased it. We've already purchased the property.
Mike, Jay.
In the paragraph above that, you're talking about a commercially reasonable form of lease at a fair market price. Fair market price would be determined, yada, yada, yada. In prior to the sale, option A, or subsection A, it says, have the right of first refusal to purchase the area not to exceed a fair market value. Option B, you've decided that it's about $5,000, not fair market value. So you're assuming that $5,000 is either going to be fair market value or be less than fair market value whenever this caveat would have to be employed. Why don't we do this? I'll give you, prior to the sale, option A. If we change the language in option B to make it something that's more easier to swallow, where I don't have to blindly throw a dart at a dartboard and say, yep, $5,000's a good number. Because it's going to be worth $10,000 a month 5 years from now. Because right
I
now,
feel better with fair market value.
Because right now, I'm obligating myself to $5,000 a month when it may only be worth $0 a month or $1,000 a month.
Sure.
I'm fine with that. No, I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm good with
and we'll do that all day long because, I mean, the risk is that it's going to go up, right?
Sure.
I mean, we thought that a cap would be good.
Right, but we are now, then what you're asking us to do is to sign a contract with a cap. Cap may be bad. Market could tank again. I mean, none of us are crystal balls in real estate. I agree with you that yes, the market is probably going to go up, and you would think that rents would go up, et cetera. I can tell you that the town of Haymarket has had the same rents for their tenants in the same ballpark for as long as I've been on council, at the same square footage rate. So they haven't gone up that much in this area, and so therefore my argument would be, why would I bank on 5,000 being a good number versus a fair market value? Maybe I shoot myself in the foot at fair market value 5 years from now. So you're using fair market value in two other places, and you're picking a number out of the thin air.
I think we're good with that.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify, just so we get this right? So in the first paragraph, we take out the 10 years, basically, and leave everything else in the first paragraph as it is.
In the first paragraph, fourth sentence down, you strike for the period of 10 years.
Okay, so we take that out. I think that's good. And
And
then
then-
down below, we
Well,
work on paragraph B, essentially.
Well, no, before that, on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the ninth line down, period of 1 year during the 10-year term. It's just, however, if a period of 1 year,
1
no
year, got
parties.
it. So any reference to the 10-year term.
And then prior to the sale of any property, you strike out during the 10-year term of the recreation fields.
Yeah.
So it's just prior to the sale of property of the town of Haymarket and Prince William County Parks.
Check.
Had the right of first refusal at fair market value. Had the option to enter into a commercially viable lease agreement, yada, yada. At a rent of, and that's where the sticking point is now. What do we agree upon? Do we go with fair market value, or do we put a floor or ceiling? Because we're obligating ourselves to that now.
We are.
So do we put a ceiling on that number?
No.
Obviously, you say that. Or do we roll the dice and put fair market value?
If it's a choice between fair market value and $5,000 a month,
Whichever is lower.
I don't think we can do that.
I don't think we have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Although that's what I want.
Personally, I think $5,000 a month is probably going to be better than fair market value. Not 100% of the time, but probably more than 50% or 70% of the time between, let's say 5 years from now. I sort of like the $5,000, but if everybody else wants to switch it to fair market value, that's okay too.
And I say, why can't you have it both? Why can't you have it that is?
I think we should be able to have it both.
Yeah, because it's going to equal the same.
I think at the end of the day, you either do, I think that it says at a rent of $5,000 a month or fair market, not to exceed, a rent not to exceed $5,000 a month, or fair market value, the lesser of the two.
And that should be agreeable, I would think.
Because you'll never sign a lease at $5,000 a month if the land's only worth $2,500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
There's no cake left.
There's a lot of cake left. You still got to get your rezoning on Monday. I expect more cake. I expect more cake to be delivered on Monday.
Okay.
I think that would be okay.
At a rent not to exceed.
So who's drafting up these comments?
I got the changes. I've got them all right here.
You can watch.
Thanks for reminding me.
For the fair market value, whichever is lesser. So it's $5,000, not to exceed $5,000, or the fair market value of the lease, whichever is. I don't know if the lesser is proper grammar, but you know what I'm
I
trying to
think
say.
the lesser of the two is fine.
Right.
I
Everybody
think
good?
we're in violent agreement.
There was no violence.
Any other questions for?
I didn't even read number 2, 3, or 4 yet. Site plan 2013, effective date of the zoning, sunset. And the sunset, perfect.
Okay.
Aren't you happy I called you now?
Any other?
Sorry. Was I just kind of,
Pun intended.
you got that joke.
You just got it.
Seeing no other questions, thank you very much for coming down.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Glad we could work this out today versus Monday.
Anything good in that?
Yeah, now
solo
we'll
cup?
just see how Monday goes.
What's that?
Anything good in that red solo cup?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I gotta fill it
We're
up.
about to look at the special use permit for the same place. Is there any issue there?
On the ability to put the limited use or whatever? No.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to walk out the door and then call 3 minutes from now.
And I will not be able to be here on Monday. I think Mike and Keith will be here, but I won't be here on Monday. If you have any questions, we'll address them now.
I think you got them.
You got it all?
All right.
I think so.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
I've got to leave, but can you mind if I jump around on something?
Sure. Where are you going to go?
Holly's recommendation for the project allowing people to approve whatever.
What page is that?
I don't know.
7F, right?
Yeah.
Okay, page 7.
I got no problem making Holly be the approver on that, but I think she's the only one qualified to be the approver on shop drawings and plan interpretations. I wouldn't think that any of us, or even Brian, no offense, would have any qualifications to approve any of that.
Okay.
So Brian, I would assume, would have to get Holly to sign off on it anyway, so why don't we just, I would rather
Just
than
make it
just say
Holly.
Holly, town
Yeah.
engineer.
I'm also going to revise that to include the project number in the motion as well.
Yeah, shop drawings especially. Is there any other things that come up?
The only thing I'm worried about in that thing that you, in your little thing though, Holly, it says contingencies up to the budgeted contingency amount, but you said that wouldn't be anything for financial approvals.
It would not be for signing the check, but there might be a change orders, which is the contingencies.
Okay.
And in the budgeted amount,
There's
there
a
wasn't a
contingency.
contingency
Right, okay. I
amount.
just
So
wanted clarification on that. And the only other thing that I had a question about is, what is this day of service thing all about?
Basically, David was approached as mayor. Many jurisdictions have adopted a day of service, basically where you encourage any residents within the town to get out and serve in some kind of community function, whatever that may be. Working with the local Habitat for Humanity, or working with any charitable organization. And it's just basically a resolution to show support for that option. Many jurisdictions have jumped on board with acknowledging it. You basically have like about a 2-week period. The first Saturday falls right on Haymarket Day, so I recommend you move to the following Saturday. And it's really nothing really that has to pertain to you all per se, although we could encourage internally for us to work with your own favorite local charity. That's basically it.
So,
Resolution support. That's really what you're looking for.
but does that mean that someone from the town or the office of the town is going to then try to coordinate some sort of effort for this?
No, I don't see it as that. It's just that we recognize this day, the date to serve.
So we're just passing on the governor's
Thank you for that.
proclamation, endorsing the governor's proclamation and passing it on is basically what it is.
Yeah, but he probably got gifts or something for that, or his wife got something.
His wife got something, yes.
I didn't get nothing for
My
that.
wife would like something too.
I'll abstain for that because I think it's silly, but whatever. The only other thing is just a quick update on the Boys and Girls Club for Pace West, not Pace West, sorry, the Haymarket, the whatever,
Carrier.
property. The guy emailed me today, apparently he's been trying to get in touch with the food pantry people about some sort of mutually beneficial agreement on that property that as an all-inclusive. He apparently can't get in touch with anybody there, so I CC'd Pam and Mary Lou on an email back to him. But I asked him to still try to provide us something by Monday with what they would propose, option A by themselves, option B with the food pantry. So since we're having a public hearing about that, hopefully I'll have information. I mean, we're not going to make any decisions, I don't think, that night on the property.
I wouldn't think we would.
Yeah, but hopefully I'll have.
Thought we
No,
were
that's
having-
September 3rd.
Yeah.
Right, but we're having a public hearing about the property on August 5th or whatever. But the whole idea is,
Right,
I'm hoping to have another option. I'm still trying to get the information.
okay.
I gotta go to work, sorry.
Hey,
You got to put in your other 7 hours, Dave?
Huh? Yeah, I gotta go try to put in real hours at real job. You wanna talk about this tonight? Call me.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay. We kind of like shuffled all around here. I'm not sure where we are.
Back to page 52,
Yeah.
Haymarket self-storage.
saw the text last month, if you didn't initiate it, like I said earlier, something,
Yep.
the formal public hearing is set.
Okay.
Mayor, Denise is, she's here to answer any questions about the assistive listening devices. I'm just bringing it up so she can maybe later on.
Oh, sure. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and go to that next number I.
Wow.
We have looked into, I asked Denise after we had a request in March of this year for listening devices for the hearing impaired. So I asked Denise to look into it, we started looking into it, this is the research that she came up with so that we are compliant for our meeting hall.
Okay.
I read through it, and I don't know what you recommend, Denise, but it seems like, not you, but I think I'll agree the future is infrared, and it just seems like it might be the way to go. I would suggest either the infrared or the FM system.
Which they refer to as IR.
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I missing, was there approximate cost for IR, FM?
Yeah. It's on 78.
Oh. Since there's an approximate cost on that page, I was looking at the other ones. How many would we be getting?
We would need minimum 3 receivers and headsets to be compliant, to be ADA
Okay.
compliant.
And we are required to do this?
Correct, yes.
So maybe we can have a form of a recommendation motion that the council can act on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the FM system is definitely the least expensive.
Now, is that per the 3 different units we would need there? So it's whatever that number is times 3?
No, that would be the number.
Okay.
What does this mean, may need a sound engineer for the FM systems?
May need an engineer means that we could actually hook the system up ourselves, but it's best if we have a sound engineer do it for a specific company coming into it for us, just so it's tweaked properly. And
Any idea of the cost of the sound engineer coming in?
That I do not have a cost of selling. I have a cost.
But I would
price
imagine
shown.
it is less than these, I mean, the IR systems are a bit more, and
Yeah.
so and the sound engineer is probably not going to be that much. I mean, one guy coming in for a day
Yes.
is probably on the order of 500 or less.
That's what I would guess.
So, yeah, that the FM system still makes sense. I'm assuming installation is included in these other ones?
In which
The induction loop systems and the infrared
the
systems?
induction loop, they wouldn't give me an exact cost. It's approximately anywhere between $8,000 and up,
Okay.
depending on the company that comes in and installs it.
The IR systems appear to be a very precise cost, down to the penny. Did that come with the installation?
That did not come with the installation.
Did not, okay, so, yeah. Okay.
All right. So we'll have a recommendation, so
Okay.
it'll be included in there.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Denise.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're all on the map here. What haven't we done?
Page 57.
sign.
Honestly, this is just quite simple. It's just, we have to have the public hearing for the sign. It's already been A or B approved. It's just a matter of us saying, because it's an SUP, saying, sure. So,
I have no questions.
In fact, it may be on our list of text amendments.
more than likely.
So this is something we would have, obviously have a draft motion for that as well? To approve?
Did he not have it? And I'm sorry.
I don't think
I
it's
didn't
on.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right, it's on
Oh,
page
wait, it's on
57.
page- Yeah, first page.
I move that the
Never mind.
town council
Oh,
approve.
sorry. It's right there.
Too many pages.
Yeah. Okay, great.
The only reason it's on there is because we're having a public hearing, and we already have it set for September 3rd.
Yeah,
So,
And F?
that we already took care of.
Right.
we just touched base on the day of service,
Uh,
fire prevention, right?
Yep, H.
Yes. One thing really to comment with regard to this is basically, this is more just a catch if we have any new applications or plans that come in that would need a fire safety review. We're still working with Prince William County, and we also would still need to have some discussions, where do we want to go. I'd like to kind of try to take care, if we could, get a whole entire system and come together with a proposal probably sometime in October or anytime after that. That should give me enough time to meet with Prince William County Fire Marshal's office to really kind of lay out the program with regard to maintenance. Once again, I'd reinforce that we're looking at the idea of inspection really comes down to acceptance, and maintenance really comes down to routine maintenance and of these systems. They're they're closely tied, but they're two separate things at the same time. Prince William County, I do have a letter from Chief Brody that kind of says that this is a system they would feel very comfortable with. The idea is that we are working in partnership. They would be very much familiar with our inspector, and as well as any of our inspectors for fire safety as well. And then once these new construction, and I think that's the biggest key to this, is it's any new construction for a commercial building, not even new construction for a residential, commercial building, that would be where this would go into effect. We then turn that over to the fire marshal's office for routine maintenance, and they get them on an annual inspection. Our only concern is why we're trying to hammer out the details, because right now there's lots of moving pieces, is that basically what do we do in between now and then. And so what this proposal is coming to you is that we do have an appropriate individual who could fill this void for us during this time. Mr. Chip Carson with Carson Associates. And basically, if we get into a situation where we have a fire safety plan that needs to be reviewed or fire inspection that needs to be done, we would basically bring him on an as-needed basis. Okay.
I have no questions.
All right, moving down through here. So we have Haymarket Outfitter, or Quilters, I'm sorry. Request.
All right, slimmed it down to 4 days as we requested, and
Yep.
we will discuss it.
Great. Good deal, thank you. Alexander's Keep site revision.
Holly, that's just to have I's dotted and T's crossed for the drainage that.
It's a minor site plan revision, and the reason it's not filled in technically yet is because I've reviewed it, and the only comment was like, fix the revision number, but until I get that, I don't want to send out and put it on the agenda. I anticipate having it, and we will have the write-up, the draft motion, approval letter, and everything. Are you interested in the revision itself, or you're not? Okay.
And the zoning permits for town property.
Yeah, Staff is just recommending that we try to be just a bit more consistent. In the past, there have been, we had to put a plot, the past council and the planning commission, they insisted on a plot plan for this entire property for the renovation projects. We've had to have, waivers for overhead. So if we're going to follow some of our guidelines, staff is just asking, and I agree, we should be a little more consistent and try to follow all of our rules rather than picking and choosing. I do have a little bit of rewording that I would be more comfortable with in the draft motion.
Do we have to come up with some dates on these draft motions?
That's where my notes come, what would make me feel better. On 1B, because of the 12-month period that we give people temporary occupancies for, I think we should kind of fall in lines on the same thing. To where it's, I further move that a final site plan shall be prepared and submitted no later than 12 months after master plan design is fully funded, and an approval, required by the final site plan shall be completed within 12 months of master plan construction being fully funded. Since we were not able to fund our design process this year, we already have a tenant. We already have a tenant there. We already have a tenant here. We're there. We don't have a tenant there. So I think if we just word it as 12 months, we give ourselves the same 12 months we've given other people from the design, 12 months from the design plan and 12 months from the construction, those parts being fully funded.
I concur.
Yep. Okay. And of course, we're adding M for agenda.
And Marshawn will have all the information for us for that.
Okay. I'll have, for council time, I'll have some different things I'll add, and I'll send it to you probably tomorrow then.
Okay.
Just, there's a couple committees that I'd like to talk about in my time.
Okay.
What else?
Closed sessions with
That's not on our agenda.
daytime, playtime, release, yes.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
I think there's an update from the town attorney.
All right. Is there anything else, Brian, that for closed session that you can think of?
Nothing.
Okay,
No.
good. Okay, great.
I have something for my time.
Okay.
Paternity leave?
Yeah, Officer Jason Davis is about to become a father, and we have in the past granted paternity leave, even though we don't have a specific policy or anything like that. And so I had Jen research it, and Jen and Brian both helped out, and basically within the last 10 years, Officer Hoffman was granted paternity leave back in 2004. So we have done that in the past, and so it has been brought to my attention that whether or not, the question was whether or not council would want to do that again, and I think that we should, and I will bring forth a motion in that, but I wanted to, I was hoping more people would be here.
Right,
I just
sure.
wanted to
Right.
get an idea of what people felt.
I'm going to go around the table. I think it's a great idea. I think obviously, it's probably something we want to change for our policies.
Well, actually, I think in our policy, just so we're following, we should really add in maternity leave, because we don't even have maternity leave mentioned
Yeah.
in,
Yeah, so maybe
So-
that's something we can.
Can we overhaul and
Yeah,
no maternity, but no paternity?
yeah.
I'm planning on addressing, of course, when we get to personnel policies, I'll probably bring more of that to you all, but one of the things I'm going to be working on in the coming months is putting a standard of operations, and procedures, and policies together, kind of all of them, so we can have one concise book. So that will probably be one that we'll also address when we look at personnel.
But in the meantime, we
Is there, did we do any research, is there a standard on how most jurisdictions do paternity leave? Because like I know maternity leave is 6 to 8 weeks, correct?
There's no standard. I think that's Virginia's minimum is 6 weeks.
Okay.
Now,
We'll compare.
But on paternity, there's So are we looking at a week, or
Well,
do we
that
want
was
to
what I
offer
was about to
two?
bring up.
That's,
Officer Hoffman was given 1 week
Okay.
in 2004. However, the question was posed to me whether or not we wanted to do 1 or 2. My feeling on that is if we have a precedent in the past, unless there's a overriding reason to change that, I'd be more comfortable with just keeping it 1 week. But unless council has other thoughts on that, or if we find out that most other jurisdictions of our size, I don't know what Stevens City does, if anything, or maybe down at the other end of the county, Dumfries, that we've got a friendly relationship with. What do they do, if anything?
Right. I think I'd look at this as one of those things where it really depends on you all. If you give a week, you give 2 weeks and stuff. It's really up to you all. You're kind of doing this as a goodwill gesture. I think there's been other situations in the past where you've had other employees who've actually had reasons, but they'd been here longer and had a longer tenure, so they were able to cover the leave. I know I ran into that with our last job. So you asked what Stevens City did. We actually don't even fall under FMLA, so we don't even have anything that even addresses it in our personnel policies. I ran into this just trying to take time off.
Right, and Officer Davis was just hired in January, so he has very little any leave on the books.
Right. Okay. So the question would be if and how much. Right.
In general, I think the council will view this favorably, just my opinion. The real question is 1 or 2 weeks, I think.
Okay. All right.
That's all I have.
Anything else, Rebecca?
No.
No? Good. Jen? Okay. Brian? All right. Thank you all very much. And are we off?
No.
Always got that lag.
Well, we're having massive internet issues.
Still.
Yeah, it actually had gotten better.
Well, the problem is that we canceled the Comcast.
Well,
They're mad at us now.
I think we had the problem before.
It's literally like every 15 minutes we're going down. So what I did was I called the company that just wired the PD and on that,
Yeah.
and I said, come figure out our problem. I can't take this anymore. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, there's things that, we have network guys in our office, and there's things that can run and just,
Yeah, there's sniffers and
It's still figured, I
stuff.
told her, I said, I have no doubt you can figure this out, just somebody please figure this out.
now, didn't we have this problem a few weeks ago when someone came in and, I thought someone came in and fixed it. It was a connection somewhere.
No, it was not, Comcast came in and said, it's not ours, it's not us, but we'll change your modem out anyway.
there's always finger pointing.
Oh,
Not us, it's them.
yeah, of course.
Of course, it's not them, but it's somebody else. Good night, all. Good night.
Right.
Jim, do you want me to go and close this for you?
No, I gotta get all my stuff, you can.
Oh, no, I just meant this thing. I just didn't